Wrist drop, also known as lead palsy, is a disorder caused by radial nerve palsy. Because of the radial nerve's ability to stimulate the extensor muscles of the wrist and digits, those whose radial nerve function has been compromised cannot actively extend them. Due to the damage of the radial nerve, the hand is unable to be brought to a position of flexation when the patient attempts to bring the arm to a horizontal position. Those who fell susceptible to wrist drop were primarily workers in lead-related industries. Some occupations that involved working with lead where workers fell susceptible to lead poisoning are lead burning, making lead pipe, making and decorating pottery, and brass and nickel buffering. Two businesses that became notorious for their workers contracting lead poisoning were paint grinding factories and factories that constructed storage batteries. There are three common ways in which lead could be taken into the body. One, by inhaling lead dust or fumes and absorbing it into the lungs. Two, by swallowing or ingesting lead, in which case it will be absorbed by the digestive tract. And the third way is by absorbing lead through the skin. In a 1914 survey, painters led the ranks in the number of deaths due to lead poisoning with 841 deaths in 10 years. The reason for the high death rates in painting industry was due to the use of lead-based paint. Paint flakes would become adhered to the worker's face, hands, and clothing, resulting in the absorption of lead through the skin. These painters would also burn off the remaining paint, causing the worker to inhale lead fumes. It seems as though individuals become more susceptible to lead poisoning during the winter months, as the windows in the factories will remain closed to keep the buildings heated. When windows remain closed for long periods of time, proper ventilation would not be able to occur, causing workers to readily inhale lead dust and fumes into their lungs, where it would then be absorbed into the body. When first observed, wrist drop was just written off as fatigue or exhaustion. There was a popular theory in the 1900s that was called Edinger's theory, or exhaustion theory, that stated the reason behind why all these lead workers' limbs were becoming limp is due to strenuous work on that particular limb. Since lead paralysis occurred in all limbs and not just the wrist, this theory was the most believed at this point in time. A manager of a red and white lead paint-based factory stated, "I have noticed that men who work in the lead with their hands get wrist drop. Those who carry loads on their shoulders get palsy of the shoulders, and the truckers who pass to and fro over the dusty floors barefoot or with worn-out shoes get the ankle drop." Women were thought to be more susceptible to lead poisoning than men, but as doctors such as J.T. Arledge began to look into this claim, he found this not to be true and stated that the reason women were contracting lead poisoning at higher rates than men is due to their job within the factory. It was found that women were in charge of doing the very dangerous job of stripping the white lead stacks and emptying the stoves. Another speculation about sex and susceptibility came from a German named Agnes Blum, stating that if more women were to contract lead poisoning than men, it is because they usually make much lower wages than men and are less well nourished. And since women often have to do housework in addition to their factory work, they are more overworked than men. In most cases, lead poisoning was thought to be a cause of uncleanliness. The way the lead industries made the workers believe that personal cleanliness was the main factor in lead poisoning had many workers blaming themselves for not taking the proper precautions to prevent it. Many workers even stated that they did not feel that the responsibility for prevention lay with the contractors and the plant managers whom they worked under. It wasn't until the first half of the 19th century till the government really started to look into the causation for lead poisoning and implement some further precautions. The paint industry experienced a lot of deaths due to lead poisoning. Painters were constantly inhaling fumes of the lead-based paint, as well as absorbing the lead through their skin. In February of 1913, a bill was signed in order to limit the amount of lead painters were exposed to. The bill prohibited the use of lead paint in building repair, restoration, or interior work. This was a big step in the lead industry that aided in the awareness of lead poisoning, and not just the paint industry, but all lead-related industries.